Hey, this is Nick Green, Hollywood on Trail. Preparing to thru hike may seem like a monumental task, and in many ways it is. But in today's video, I'm gonna highlight a few things that you need to do to make this task just a little bit easier to swallow. All right, so I'm gonna assume that you've already picked which trail you want to do. The AT, PCT, CDT, an international trail, anything you want, but you've already decided this is the one you're gonna do. And since you've decided which one you want to do, you've probably already done a fair bit of research. You've watched videos, you read books and blogs, you've gotten tips from previous thru hikers and everything in between. Most of the research you're gonna do has to deal with the logistics of the trail. Do you need permits? Do you need bear canisters? Because a lot of areas like national parks require you to have bear canisters instead of just a food bag. You've researched the water aspect of this. Is this a trail where it's like a desert and you need to do miles and miles and miles of water carries? Or is this a trail where there are free-flowing streams everywhere you look? You've probably researched the food aspect of this as well. Are towns easily accessible? Can you resupply every 3 or 4 days? Or are you going to need to do extensive food carries as well? Do most of these towns have post offices? Can you do mail drops? That's where you prepare all your food beforehand or have somebody do it as you're hiking along, and you mail yourself your food depending on which town you get to and when. Can you hitch into towns easily enough? Or are these desolate roads in the middle of nowhere where no one's ever going to pass and you got to figure out, okay, I'm going to have to hike 10 miles into town when I get to this specific area? What's the weather like? Is it going to be freezing? Is it going to be super hot? Is it going to be raining all the time? So all of this research is going to be the first thing you do. Just the logistics, the ins and outs. And a great place to look is to other thru hikers that have already done this trail and get their advice. But alongside this research of the trail, there are other important aspects that you'll need to take care of before your adventure starts. And here they are. Make a tentative plan on timing. Give yourself a pretty firm start date and a mildly loose end date. Your start date, you'll have to consider time of the year. Do you want to start in the winter when it's probably pretty cold, but that'll get you to a certain spot at a certain time? Or do you want to start a little bit later on, knowing that you'll probably have to giddy up a little bit and get to where you need to go before the following winter? A mildly loose end date because you don't really know when you're going to finish. There's so many factors that will help determine this along the way. But knowing, for example, when Baxter State Park closes and you'll have to finish your Appalachian Trail thru hike because they don't really want you to climb Katahdin after a certain period. It gets too dangerous, it's really cold, and there's lots of blizzards going on. It's important to know these things when you calculate how long you're actually going to be on trail. Again, it's not going to be perfect. It's more of an art form rather than a science, but pretty much figuring out when you're going to be finished is a good idea. Once you've gotten timing figured out, a big one that you have to do pretty much right away is get your life in order at home. What are you going to do with your home? Do you rent and you could just give up your lease? Do you own your home and you have a mortgage you have to keep paying? What are you going to do with your car insurance, your dog? Anything in between that has to do with at home. This is probably the thing that most people struggle with and why they probably never go on trail to begin with. Their life back home is just so entangled in not leaving that it's hard to ever imagine themselves gone for 4.5 to 6 months. So paying strict attention to this at the beginning will help you know, hey, this is something I can consider doing, this thru hike dream of mine, or you know what, now really isn't the best time. So once you consider all the things you have to organize, like what do I do with my home, my car, my dog, all of those things, that will lead you to getting your finances in order. Is a thru hike feasible for you at the moment? There are tons of people who start a thru hike, get halfway through, their body feels great, their mentality is great, they just run out of money. And it's tragic. It's really horrible to have to get off trail because you just don't have enough money to keep going. I made a video that I'll link above to my finances on the Appalachian Trail and just how much money you actually need to hike a long distance trail. For some people, not me, this is no problem at all. They have tons of money flowing freely and not even a consideration. But I would imagine for most of us, finances are a big consideration. Remember, you're not only going to be paying for things on trail, you're also going to be ostensibly managing your home life as well. You don't just give up everything at home. There are going to be some things that you have to manage there as well. So those things mixed together can be a hurdle, but taking care of it at the beginning so there aren't any real surprises later on is very important. This next one for me was integral to my hike. Telling family and friends what I'm about to do. So your tendency might be to delay this process because, well, what if you don't do it? You've already put it out into the world. You kind of feel like a failure or something like that. But telling everyone early on does a couple of things. First of all, it allows people to help you. It's amazing to learn how many people actually want to take a grand adventure like this, and for whatever reason, they're just not able to at the moment, so they sort of want to live vicariously through you. Their help can come in the form of motivation, just like keeping you going on a down day. Oh man, I'm never going to be able to through hike this thing. You know what? Let me talk to my friend, my family member, whoever it is, and they're going to pick me up. That encouragement is huge. Jeez. And once it's out in the world, there may be some people who want to help more tangibly. You might have a rich uncle somewhere who says, you know what, I kind of want to throw some money into this and help you on your grand adventure. I wish I had that, but I'm sure it does happen. And even if not in a financial way, there are people who say, you know what, let me help you work your mail drops. I'll send you packages along the way, and that way you can get your food a little bit easier. There might even be somebody who says, you know what, I'm friends with this person who works at a gear company. I can help you get your gear a little bit cheaper. You never know what it's going to be. Just putting it out in the world really gives you a big push to get you to the place you want to be. And you know what? Even if you don't do it at the end of the day, no one's going to judge you poorly. And if they do, they're a bad friend or family member. Now, once it's out in the world, you can start collecting your gear. I've made tons of videos so far on the gear that I used. There are a plethora of other videos that other hikers have made about their gear. This can get really addictive really quickly and really expensive really quickly. Just do your best to find out what's right for you and know this is an ever-evolving process. You're going to change your gear plenty of times throughout this initial push. Gear is also dependent upon which trail you're going to do. Do you need a really heavy sleeping bag because it's going to be super cold when you're going to start and where you're going to start? Or you know what? No, not at all. Actually, I could get just a sheet or something, like a hiking sheet I can use at the beginning. It's all dependent on a lot of different factors. As you're getting your gear in order, you can then start thinking about your maps and your GPS system. Studying the topography is really important. It's a really fun aspect of preparation as well. Getting to know the names of the places that you're then going to be in is really cool because then once you get there, you're like, oh my gosh, Fontana Dam, I remember that. I remember learning about that. Franconia Bridge, oh my God, yeah, this is incredible. So it's really fun to get familiar with all of that stuff and then figuring out if you're going to use a paper map, if you're going to use a GPS, what exactly are you going to be navigating with? All that stuff is actually the really fun part of the preparation. That kind of leads me into this next point. Learn the history of the trail. When you read books and watch film about this trail, it's unbelievable what it unlocks inside of you. It makes it so much more meaningful to know the feet that have come before you on this trail. Who was the first person to ever hike the trail? How many people have hiked the trail? The oldest person, the youngest person, all that stuff is so much fun. Why does this trail even exist to begin with? All of the men and women who put so much work into making this thing a reality for you to now have your dream come true, it's really worthwhile and really meaningful to get that history inside of you. And you know what? When you're on trail and you're having a bad day or even a good day, a hard day, whatever it is, it will push you forward. It really will. All those people that came before you and everyone else who will come after you, they're on trail with you. It sounds woo-woo. I know it does, but that's what you get like on trail. You become very spiritual and they're going to help push you along. It just works that way. Now, the really fun part, training. Hopefully you've been doing some sort of training and you're a bit of a hiker before you decide you want to do a through hike, but that's not always the case and it's honestly not always necessary. So this is a good time leading up to your trail to really get out there, do your practice hikes, do your shakedowns, find out what gear works for you and what doesn't. Figure out, hey, I really don't need this piece of superfluous gear. I can leave that behind, cut weight a little bit. As much as you can be out on trail, specifically for extended periods of time, a weekend, maybe even a week if you can swing it, the better. So as you're training, as you're getting going, you got your gear situated, now it's time to start making arrangements on how you're going to get to trail and then way down the line, how you're going to get off trail. The getting to trail is the more important part because who knows how really you're going to get off trail, but making a tentative plan is probably worthwhile. But people forget sometimes about getting to trail. They typically start in a pretty remote part of the country, and if you don't happen to live right there, it can be a big consideration. If you're going to fly there, you got to figure out how you're going to fly, how you're going to pack your bag and all that kind of stuff. If you have a stove, remember you can't fly with the actual fuel. All these little things like that do take consideration that you kind of just forget about until the very end. Once you've figured that all out and you've taken care of all of the other things we've talked about, you've reached a certain point where there's just really nothing more to plan. Planning mode is kind of over and it's time to just go and take your first step. While this sounds like a bit of a cop-out, it's actually really important. Becoming addicted to your planning process is actually something you really want to be aware of. It happens a lot, and it will only just postpone your hike, maybe indefinitely. Trust that you've taken care of all the things that you needed to take care of. You took preparation seriously, and at this point, you could just close the laptop, shut that book, and take those first steps. All the other things you're going to be able to figure out once you're on trail. One little bonus tip as well is learn what the fun things are on trail. It kind of sounds weird, but I really mean it. Like, learn if there is aqua blazing like there is on the Appalachian Trail where you could just take a canoe and float down the river. Or maybe there's some like cool jungle zip lining if you're doing it somewhere where that's appropriate. Learn about the things you can do tangentially to just hiking. It really makes for a more well-rounded experience. And each trail has those fun little things where you can, just get off for a second and go have an experience alongside your experience. It's really important. And there you have it. You have just planned for your thru hike. See, it's not as crazy as you think it might be. Just go step by step, take your time, and realize the goal is to just go. So even if you skip a step, you will figure it out along the way. Leave a comment and let me know if there's something I'm missing. Oh my gosh, how do you do this thing? Or I actually did a thru hike and you know what? You missed a really important step. Or if you have any questions about any of these things, please reach out. I would love to chat with you. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button so you can get plenty more of these videos. In any case, if you can't carry it in your pack or in your soul, you don't need it.